The alarm clock buzzed at 4:30 a.m., just like it had every morning for the past 3 months. Rosa rolled over and felt the empty space next to her where her husband Miguel used to sleep. Now he was downstairs on the couch, his leg elevated and wrapped in bandages. Unable to climb the stairs since his construction accident, she quietly got dressed in her uniform, a black skirt and white blouse that had seen better days. The coffee maker gurgled to life as she prepared for another grueling day at Romano's diner. Through the thin walls, she could hear her 8-year-old daughter Lucia coughing in the next room. The medicine for her asthma was expensive, and they were already behind on so many bills. Miguel stirred as she tiptoed past the living room. "Morning, mi amor," he whispered, his voice heavy with guilt. "I wish I could help more." Rosa knelt beside the couch and kissed his forehead. "You're healing. That's your job right now. Mine is to keep us afloat until you're better." The bus ride to work was the same as always. Tired faces heading to early shifts, everyone lost in their own struggles. Rosa stared out the window at the city waking up. She used to love mornings, but now they just meant another day of fighting. To survive, Romano's diner sat on the corner of 5th Street, a place that had seen better decades. The neon sign flickered and the paint was peeling, but it was steady work. Or at least it had been until Frank became the day supervisor 6 months ago. Frank was everything wrong with small-time power. He was barely 30, had never worked in food service before, and seemed to think yelling made him a leader. The previous supervisor, Mrs. Patterson, had been firm but fair. She understood that life happened. Kids got sick, cars broke down, and sometimes you needed 5 minutes to catch your breath. Frank understood none of this. Rosa pushed through the back door at 5:45 a.m., 15 minutes early as always. The kitchen was already busy with prep work, and she grabbed her apron and order pad. The morning rush at Romano's was legendary. Construction workers, office employees, and students all cramming in before their day started. By 7 a.m., the place was packed. Rosa moved between tables with practiced efficiency, balancing plates and refilling coffee cups. She had worked in restaurants for 12 years and knew how to handle the chaos. But today felt different. They were short-staffed again. 2 servers had quit last week after. Frank screamed at them for taking a bathroom break. Table 6 wanted their eggs over easy, not scrambled. Table 12 needed more syrup. The businessman at table 3 was getting impatient about his breakfast sandwich. Rosa juggled it all, her feet already aching in her worn shoes. "Rosa!" Frank's voice cut through the noise. "Table 9 is still waiting for their order." She glanced at the kitchen window. The cook was overwhelmed, plates backing up under the heat lamps. "The kitchen's backed up," she called back. "I'll check on it. Don't make excuses. Move faster." Rosa bit her tongue and kept working. She had learned not to argue with Frank. It only made things worse. The morning rush was reaching its peak when disaster struck. Rosa was carrying a tray with 3 coffee cups and a plate of pancakes when a child at table 4 suddenly darted into the aisle. She swerved to avoid him, but her elbow caught the edge of another table. Time seemed to slow down as the coffee cups tilted. Hot coffee splashed across the table, soaking a man's open laptop computer. The businessman jumped up, his white shirt stained brown. "What the hell?" he shouted. "My laptop. Do you have any idea how much work I just lost?" Rosa's heart sank. She grabbed napkins and started dabbing at the computer, her hands shaking. "I'm so sorry, sir. I'm really sorry." "Let me get you towels, and we'll pay for any damage." The entire restaurant had gone quiet. Every conversation stopped. Every eye turned to their table. Rosa felt her face burning with embarrassment as she tried to clean up the mess. That's when Frank's voice boomed across the room. "Are you kidding me right now?" He stormed over, his face red with anger. The businessman was still upset, but Frank wasn't even looking at him. His fury was focused entirely on Rosa. "This is unacceptable," Frank yelled, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're always messing up, always making mistakes." Rosa felt tears starting to form. "Frank, please, it was an accident." "I can fix this? Fix this? You just destroyed a customer's computer. You're clumsy, you're slow, and you're always making excuses." The businessman actually looked uncomfortable now. Look, accidents happen. Maybe we can just... No, Frank cut him off. This is exactly why this place is falling apart. Because of employees like her who don't care about doing their job right. Rosa's voice was barely a whisper. Please, Frank, I need this job. I've been working here for 3 years. I'm always on time. I work extra shifts. I don't want to hear it. Frank's voice got even louder. You're done. You're fired. Get out of my restaurant. The words hit Rosa like a physical blow. The room was completely silent now except for the sizzle of the grill in the kitchen. 30 pairs of eyes watched as tears rolled down her cheeks. Frank, please, she said quietly. I have kids. My husband is hurt. I need this job. Should have thought about that before you decided to be careless. Frank turned to the businessman. Sir, I apologize for this employee's behavior. Your meal is on the house and we'll see what we can do about your computer. Rosa untied her apron with shaking hands. 3 years of early mornings, double shifts, and putting up with difficult customers. 3 years of building relationships with regular customers who asked about her family. All of it gone in 30 seconds. She walked toward the back to get her purse, her face burning with shame. The other employees avoided eye contact, afraid Frank might turn on them next. Rosa had always been kind to everyone, helping new servers learn the ropes and covering shifts when people were sick. As she headed for the door, she heard Frank address the room. Let this be a lesson to everyone. This is what happens when you don't take your job seriously. Outside in the parking lot, Rosa sat in her old Honda and finally let herself cry. How was she going to tell Miguel? How was she going to explain to Lucia why they might lose their apartment? The bills were already piling up, and now they had no income at all. She pulled out her phone to call Miguel, but her hands were shaking. Too much to dial. A tap on her window made her look up. An older man with kind eyes was standing beside her car. What Rosa didn't know was that this stranger had watched the entire scene unfold. He had seen her kindness with customers, her hard work, and her dignity even in the face of humiliation. And he was about to change everything. The man standing beside Rosa's car had silver hair and wore a simple blue shirt. He looked to be in his 50s, with the kind of face that made you think of your favorite uncle. His name was David, and he had been coming to Romano's diner every Tuesday morning for the past 5 years. Rosa wiped her eyes quickly and rolled down the window. I'm sorry, do you need something? David's voice was gentle. I was inside when that happened. I wanted to make sure you were okay. Oh, Rosa didn't know what to say. Strangers didn't usually check on her. I'm fine. Well, not really fine, but you know. That was completely unfair, David said. I've been watching you work in there for years. You're always kind to everyone, always working hard. What happened in there was wrong. Rosa felt fresh tears coming. Someone had noticed. After all this time thinking she was invisible, someone had actually been watching and saw that she cared about her job. Thank you for saying that, she whispered. But it doesn't change anything. I still lost my job. David looked back at the diner, then at Rosa. Mind if I sit with you for a minute? I have something I'd like to talk to you about. Rosa hesitated. She had been taught to be careful of strangers, especially when she was upset and vulnerable. But something about David felt safe. Maybe it was the way he had approached her car slowly, keeping his distance. Or maybe it was the genuine concern in his eyes. Okay, she said. But I should warn you, I'm not great company right now. David walked around to the passenger side and sat down. The car was small, and Rosa suddenly felt embarrassed about the worn seats and the crack in the dashboard. This man looked like he could afford much better. I'm David, he said. I own a small catering business across town, Chun's Catering. Rosa nodded. I'm Rosa? Well, I guess I'm Rosa who used to work at Romano's. Rosa, I saw what happened in there. I also saw how you handled it. You stayed calm, you tried to fix the problem, and you treated everyone with respect even when you weren't getting any back. Rosa shrugged. My grandmother always said you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Even when people are mean to you, being mean back doesn't help anything. Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman. She was. She raised me after my parents died. Rosa stopped talking. She didn't know why she was sharing personal information with a stranger. David was quiet for a moment. Rosa, can I ask you something? What made you start working in restaurants? The question surprised her. I don't know. I guess I like taking care of people. When someone comes in tired from work or hungry and you bring them exactly what they need, there's something good about that. Like you made their day a little better. David smiled. That's exactly what I thought. I've been watching you for years. The way you remember what the regular customers like, how you always check on the elderly people to make sure they're okay. Last month, I saw you buy coffee for that homeless man who comes in sometimes. Rosa's cheeks turned red. You saw that? I did. And I also saw you give your umbrella to that woman with the baby when it was raining. Rosa looked down at her hands. Those were just little things. Little things matter. They tell you who someone really is? David paused. Rosa, I know this might sound crazy, but I think what happened in there might be the best thing that could have happened to you. Rosa looked at him like he had lost his mind. Are you serious? I just lost my job? I have bills to pay, kids to feed. My husband can't work because he's hurt. How's any of this good? Because now you're free to work somewhere that appreciates you. David reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. I've been looking for someone to help me run my catering business. Someone who understands customer service and knows how to treat people right. Someone who can handle pressure and solve problems. Rosa took the card but didn't look at it. I don't know anything about catering. You know about food service? You know about making people happy. You know about working hard and being dependable. That's what I need. Rosa finally looked at the card. Chun's Catering was printed in simple black letters with a phone number below. Why me? You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you show up early every day. I know you stay late when needed. I know you treat your coworkers with respect and your customers like family. I know you take pride in your work even when your boss doesn't appreciate it. Rosa's mind was spinning. This is crazy. Things like this don't happen to people like me. What do you mean, people like you, you know? People who didn't go to college. People who work in diners. People who are always behind on bills. David's voice got firmer. Rosa, listen to me. I started my business 15 years ago with $500 and a dream. I didn't go to college either. I worked in kitchens, just like you worked in restaurants. The difference isn't where you came from. It's what you do with the opportunities you get. Rosa was quiet for a long moment. What kind of work would it be? At first, helping me with events, setting up, serving food, cleaning up. But if you're interested and you're good at it, there's room to grow. I'm not getting any younger, and I need someone who can eventually help me run the whole operation. What's the pay? David named the number that was almost double what Rosa made at Romano's. Her eyes widened. Are you serious? Dead serious, plus benefits after 90 days. Health insurance, paid time off, and a retirement plan. Rosa felt dizzy. I don't understand. Why would you offer this to me? You could hire someone with experience. I've hired people with experience. Some of them had great resumes but terrible attitudes. Others looked perfect on paper but couldn't handle the pressure. You have something that can't be taught. You care about doing things right. Rosa looked back at the diner. Through the window, she could see Frank talking to the other employees, probably telling them what would happen if they made mistakes like she did. I'm scared, she admitted. What if I mess up? What if I'm not good enough? Rosa, you just spent 3 years working for someone who didn't appreciate you, and you never stopped trying to do your best. You think someone like that is going to mess up when they finally get a chance to work for someone who believes in them? David opened the car door. Look, I know this is a lot to think about. Take my card? Go home. Talk to your husband. Think about it. But Rosa, don't let fear stop you from taking a chance on yourself. Rosa looked at the card again. When would you need an answer? How about this? Why don't you come by tomorrow morning? See the kitchen, meet my team, get a feel for the place. No pressure. If you like what you see, we can talk about starting next week. Rosa's heart was beating fast. Okay, I can do that. David smiled and got out of the car. Rosa, I want you to remember something. What happened in there wasn't about you not being good enough. It was about your boss not being smart enough to recognize what he had. As David walked away, Rosa sat in her car holding the business card. For the first time in months, she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. Maybe, just maybe, her worst day was about to become the first day of something better. Rosa's hands shook as she turned the key in her car the next morning. She had barely slept, tossing and turning all night thinking about David's offer. Miguel had been excited when she told him, but Rosa couldn't shake the feeling that it was too good to be true. What if he changes his mind when he sees me again? She had asked Miguel the night before. Then he's a fool, Miguel had replied, squeezing her hand. But Rosa, what if he doesn't? What if this is real? Now, driving through the early morning traffic, Rosa tried to calm her nerves. She had looked up Chien's Catering online and found a simple website with photos of beautiful wedding receptions and corporate events. The food looked amazing, and the reviews were all 5 stars. People wrote things like professional service and attention to detail and made our event perfect. Could she really be part of something like that? The address led her to a small industrial area she had never visited before. Chien's Catering was in a converted warehouse with a simple sign out front. Rosa parked and checked her reflection in the mirror. She had worn her best dress, a navy blue one she usually saved for church. David was waiting for her at the front door with a warm smile. Rosa, I'm so glad you came. Ready for the tour? I think so, Rosa said. Though her voice sounded uncertain even to herself, David led her through the front door into what looked like a small office. There were photos on the walls of different events: elegant weddings, business meetings, birthday parties. A young woman with short black hair was sitting at a desk, typing on a computer. This is Lisa, David said. She handles our bookings and coordinates with clients. Lisa, this is Rosa. Lisa looked up and smiled. Nice to meet you, David's told. Me so much about you. Rosa felt her cheeks warm. All good things, I hope. Definitely. He said you're the hardest worker he's ever seen. David gestured toward a doorway. Come on, let me show you the kitchen. Rosa followed him into the main workspace and gasped. The kitchen was spotless and organized, with stainless steel counters and professional equipment she had only seen on cooking shows. Everything gleamed under the bright lights. Wow, she whispered. This is where the magic happens, David said. We prepare food for events ranging from 10 people to 500. Each event is different, so we have to be flexible and organized. A man in his 30s wearing a chef's coat looked up from where he was chopping vegetables. You must be Rosa, he said with a friendly grin. I'm Carlos, head chef. David's been talking about you all week. He has? Rosa was surprised. Oh yeah, he said you have the best customer service skills he's ever seen. In this business, that's everything. David showed her around the rest of the kitchen, explaining how they planned menus, prepared food, and organized everything for transport to events. Rosa listened carefully, asking questions about timing and logistics. The thing about catering, David explained, is that everything has to be perfect. We only get one chance to make someone's wedding or business meeting successful. There's no room for mistakes. Rosa's stomach tightened. That sounds really stressful. It can be, David admitted, but it's also incredibly rewarding. When you see a bride's face light up because the food is exactly what she dreamed of, or when a business client tells you their event was the best they've ever had, that makes all the stress worth it. Carlos nodded. Plus, we work as a team here. If someone's struggling, we all help. We're not competing with each other. We're working together to make every event amazing. That sounded completely different from Romano's, where everyone was afraid to help each other because Frank might accuse them of not focusing on their own work. What would my job be exactly? Rosa asked. Well, David said, you'd start by helping with event setup and service. Learning how we do things, getting comfortable with our systems. But Rosa, I'm not just looking for someone to follow orders. I'm looking for someone who can think on their feet and solve problems. He led her to a small break room with a table and chairs. "Can I tell you about last Saturday?" Rosa nodded and sat down. "We were catering a wedding for 200 people. Everything was going perfectly until we got to the venue and realized they had given us the wrong address. The real venue was 30 minutes away and guests were already arriving." "Oh no," Rosa said. "What did you do?" "Well, I panicked for about 30 seconds, David admitted with a laugh. But then Lisa called the venue and explained the situation. Carlos organized the team to pack everything back up in record time. And our server, Jenny, actually drove to the correct venue ahead of us to explain to the wedding coordinator what happened." "Did you make it in time?" "We did, and you know what? The bride and groom said it was the best wedding they'd ever been to. Because even though we had a crisis, everyone on our team stayed calm and worked together to fix it." Rosa could imagine Frank in the same situation. He would have screamed at everyone and blamed them for the mistake, even though it wasn't their fault. "That's the kind of person I need," David continued. "Someone who can handle pressure, but also think about solutions instead of just panicking." "I think I could do that," Rosa said quietly. "I know you could. I saw you handle that situation at Romano's. You stayed calm, you tried to help the customer, and you kept your dignity even when your boss was being completely unreasonable." David pulled out a folder. "Rosa, I'd like to offer you a position. Starting salary is what I mentioned yesterday, plus health insurance after 90 days. You'd work Tuesday through Saturday, with Sundays and Mondays off." Rosa's eyes widened. 2 days off in a row? Everyone deserves time to rest and spend with their family. Tired employees make mistakes, and mistakes cost us clients. Rosa looked at the paperwork David was showing her. The salary was more than she had ever made. The benefits were better than anything she had ever had. And most importantly, David was treating her with respect. "There's one more thing," David said. "I want to be completely honest with you. This job isn't easy. Event days are long and demanding. You'll be on your feet for hours, and sometimes we work until midnight. But Rosa, if you're willing to work hard and learn, I think you could eventually help me run this whole business." "Really?" "Really. I'm 62 years old. I love what I do, but I'm not going to do it forever. I need someone who can carry on what I've built, someone who cares about quality and treating people right." Rosa thought about Miguel at home, about Lucia needing her asthma medicine, about all the bills piling up. But she also thought about the photos on the wall, the pride in Carlos's voice when he talked about their work, and the way David talked about his employees like they were family. "When would I start?" she asked. David smiled. "How about Monday?" "We have a corporate lunch that day, nothing too big, just 50 people, perfect for learning the ropes." Rosa took a deep breath. "Okay, yes, I'll do it." "Wonderful." David stood up and shook her hand. "Rosa, I think this is the beginning of something great." As Rosa drove home, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years, excitement about going to work. For the first time in a long time, she couldn't wait to start tomorrow. 6 months had passed since Rosa started working at Chun's Catering, and she could barely recognize the scared woman who had sat crying in the parking lot of Romano's diner. Every morning, she woke up excited to go to work instead of dreading. The change had been gradual but amazing. In her first week, Rosa had simply followed instructions and tried to stay out of everyone's way. But David had noticed something the others missed. Rosa had a natural eye for detail and organization that made events run smoother. "Rosa," David had said after her second week, "I noticed you rearranged the serving stations at the Johnson wedding last Saturday. Can you tell me why?" Rosa had been nervous, thinking she had done something wrong. "I'm sorry, I should have asked." "First, it's just that the guests were having to walk around each other to get to the food, and I thought if we moved the dessert table to the other side." "Rosa," David interrupted with a smile, "you cut the serving time in half." The client was thrilled. "Don't apologize for making things better." That conversation had changed everything. Rosa realized that David actually wanted her input, not just her obedience. Over the following months, she began suggesting improvements to their setup process, their client communication, And even their menu planning. By month 3, David had promoted her to assistant manager. By month 4, she was handling client meetings on her own. By month 6, she was essentially running the day-to-day operations while David focused on growing the business. Rosa's confidence had grown along with her responsibilities. She carried herself differently now, shoulders back, head held high. She had bought new clothes with her better salary, and Miguel had been able to afford physical therapy for his leg. They had caught up on their bills and even started a small savings account, but the biggest change was in how Rosa saw herself. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was a professional who managed teams, solved problems, and made important decisions. Clients specifically requested her for their events because they knew she would make everything perfect. It was on a Tuesday morning in October that everything came full circle. Rosa was in the office, reviewing the details for a weekend wedding, when David walked in with a curious expression. "Rosa, I just got an interesting call," he said, sitting down at his desk. "Someone wants to hire us for their annual company picnic. 200 people, next Saturday." "That sounds great," Rosa sighed, making notes. "What kind of food are they thinking? Standard picnic fare? Burgers, hot dogs, salads, desserts, nothing too complicated." David paused. "The interesting part is who called." Rosa looked up from her notebook. "Who? Mr. Romano, from Romano's Diner." Rosa's pen stopped moving. She hadn't thought about Romano's in months. The name brought back memories of early mornings, aching feet, and Frank's angry voice. "Oh," she said quietly. "I told him we'd consider it," David said. "But Rosa, I want you to know, if you're not comfortable with this, we can turn it down. We have plenty of other business." Rosa sat back in her chair. Part of her wanted to say no immediately. Why should she help the place that had treated her so badly? But another part of her was curious. What had happened to Romano's? How were her former co-workers doing? What did Mr. Romano say exactly? She asked. David consulted his notes. "He said they've been having trouble with their usual caterer. He heard about us from someone who attended the Mitchell wedding last month. Sighed he was looking for professional service and attention to detail." Those were the exact words Rosa had been hearing from their clients for months. She had helped build that reputation. "Did he mention anything about the restaurant?" "He did, actually. Said business has been slow lately. Something about staffing problems and bad reviews online." Rosa wasn't surprised. Frank's management style had probably driven away more good employees. She wondered if any of her old co-workers were still there. "I think we should take it," Rosa said suddenly. David looked surprised. "Are you sure?" "Yes, it's a good opportunity for us, and it's not like we'd be working inside the restaurant." "It's just a picnic," David nodded slowly. "Okay, but I want you to be the lead on this event. You'll be in charge of the whole thing, planning, setup, service, everything." Rosa felt a flutter of nervousness mixed with excitement. "Really? Really? Rosa, you've been handling our biggest events for months. You know what you're doing? Besides," David smiled, "I think it might be good for you to show them what professional service really looks like." Over the next few days, Rosa threw herself into planning the Romano's picnic. She designed a menu that was both delicious and practical for outdoor serving. She worked with Carlos to prep everything perfectly. She coordinated with Lisa to make sure they had enough staff and equipment. But as Saturday approached, Rosa found herself getting more nervous. What if she saw Frank? What if he made some comment about her being just a waitress again? What if something went wrong and he blamed her? Miguel noticed her anxiety on Friday night. "Mi amor, what's wrong?" "You've been quiet all evening." Rosa told him about the picnic and her worries. Miguel listened carefully, then took her hands. "Rosa, do you remember what you were like 6 months ago? How scared you were, how you thought you weren't good enough. Yes, look at you now. You're running a successful catering business. You have clients who specifically ask for you. You've saved our family." Miguel's voice was proud. "That man, Frank, can't take any of that away from you." "But what if nothing?" Miguel interrupted gently. "You're not the same person who got fired from that diner. You're Rosa Martinez, assistant manager of Chung's Catering. You're the woman who made the Davidson anniversary party perfect, even when it rained. You're the one who saved the corporate event when the power went out. Rosa smiled despite her nerves. You're right, I know I am. And tomorrow you're going to show everyone at Romano's what they lost when they let you go. Saturday morning arrived bright and sunny. Rosa arrived at the picnic site early with her team of Carlos, Lisa, and two servers named Jenny and Pete. They worked like a well-oiled machine, setting up cooking stations, serving tables, and decorating. The space. Rosa coordinated everything from her clipboard, checking off tasks and making sure every detail was perfect. She had learned to dress professionally for events, a crisp white blouse, black pants, and comfortable shoes that still looked polished. At 11 o'clock, the Romano's employees began arriving. Rosa recognized several faces, servers who had been kind to her, kitchen staff who had always said hello. They looked tired and stressed, much like she remembered feeling every day. Then she saw Frank. He was directing people where to sit, his voice just as loud and demanding as she remembered. When he spotted Rosa, his face went pale. You, he said, walking over. What are you doing here? Rosa looked at him calmly. I'm running this event, Frank. I'm the catering manager. Frank's eyes narrowed. Catering manager? You're just a waitress. Actually, Rosa said with a smile, I'm an assistant manager at Chung's Catering. We're one of the most successful catering companies in the city. Before Frank could respond, Mr. Romano himself walked over. He was an older Italian man who Rosa had only seen a few times during her years at the diner. You must be Rosa, he said, extending his hand. I'm Tony Romano. Thank you so much for taking care of our event today. It's my pleasure, Mr. Romano. We're going to make sure everyone has a wonderful time. As they shook hands, Rosa noticed Frank's shocked expression. Mr. Romano was treating her with the respect of a professional, not the dismissive attitude Frank had always shown. I have to say, Mr. Romano continued, the setup looks incredible, very professional. Thank you, sir. My team and I take pride in our work. As Mr. Romano walked away, Frank stood there staring at Rosa. She looked confident, successful, and completely different from the scared woman he had fired 6 months ago. How did you, Frank started to say. Hard work, Rosa said simply, and finding someone who appreciated it. She turned back to her clipboard. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have an event to run. As Frank walked away, Rosa felt a sense of satisfaction she had never experienced before. She wasn't angry or bitter. She was simply proud of how far she had come. The Romano's company picnic was in full swing by noon. Rosa watched from behind the serving station as employees filled their plates with perfectly grilled burgers, fresh salads, and homemade desserts. Everything was running like clockwork, just the way she had planned it. Carlos was manning the grill with his usual skill, flipping burgers and hot dogs with perfect timing. Jenny and Pete moved smoothly between tables, refilling drinks and clearing plates. Lisa managed the serving line, making sure everyone got exactly what they wanted. Rosa felt a deep sense of pride watching her team work. 6 months ago, she couldn't have imagined being in charge of an event like this. Now, she was coordinating every detail while making it look effortless. Excuse me, are you the manager? Rosa turned to see a woman in her 40s approaching. She recognized her as one of the servers from Romano's, someone who had always been kind during Rosa's time there. Yes, I'm Rosa. Can I help you with something? The woman's face lit up with recognition. Rosa! Oh my gosh, it's really you. I'm Janet. I used to work the morning shift with you. Janet! How are you? Rosa smiled warmly. How's everything at the restaurant? Janet's expression darkened. Honestly, it's been rough. Frank's gotten even worse since you left. 3 more people have quit in the past 2 months. The new girl barely lasted a week. Rosa felt a pang of sympathy for her former co-workers. I'm sorry to hear that, but look at you. Janet's face brightened again. You're running this whole event. The food is amazing. The service is perfect. How did you make such a big change? I got lucky, Rosa said. I found someone who believed in me. Well, you deserve it. Everyone always said you were the best worker we had. Frank was an idiot too. Let you go. As Janet walked back to her table, Rosa noticed several other former coworkers looking her way. Some waved, others nodded with respect. It felt good to see them, but it also made her realize how much her life had changed. Around 1 o'clock, Mr. Romano approached the serving station. Rosa, I have to say, this is incredible. The food, the service, the organization, it's all perfect. Thank you, Mr. Romano. My team worked really hard to make this special. I can tell. I've been thinking about some changes at the restaurant. We've been having some management issues lately. Rosa noticed Frank standing about 20 feet away, clearly listening to their conversation. Oh? Rosa kept her voice neutral. Yes, our customer satisfaction scores have been dropping. Online reviews are getting worse. We've lost several good employees. Mr. Romano shook his head. I'm starting to think I need new leadership. Rosa felt Frank's eyes on her, but didn't. Look his way. I'm sure you'll figure out what's best for your business. Actually, I was wondering if you might be interested in coming back. As a manager this time, I could offer you a much better salary, benefits, your own schedule. The offer hung in the air between them. 6 months ago, Rosa would have jumped at the chance. A management position at Romano's with good pay would have solved all her problems. But now things were different. Mr. Romano, I appreciate the offer, but I'm very happy where I am. Are you sure? I could make it worth your while. Rosa looked around at her team, at the perfectly organized event, at the satisfied customers. I'm sure. I've found where I belong, Mr. Romano nodded with understanding. Well, if you ever change your mind, you know where to find me. As he walked away, Rosa saw Frank approaching. Her stomach tightened, but she stood tall and waited for him. So, Frank said, his voice carrying that familiar edge, you think you're something special now? I think I'm good at my job, Rosa replied calmly. This is just one event? Anyone can handle one event? Rosa smiled. Frank, this is my 4th event this week. Last week, one managed 5. Next week, I have 7 scheduled, including a wedding for 300 people and a corporate conference for 500. Frank's confidence seemed to waver. Well, catering is different than restaurant work. You're right, it's more complex, more pressure, higher standards. Rosa's voice stayed steady, and I love every minute of it. Frank looked around at the smooth operation Rosa had created. You always thought you were better than everyone else. No. Frank, I just thought I deserved to be treated with respect. Respect is earned. You're absolutely right, and I've earned it. Rosa gestured toward the picnic. My clients respect me because I do excellent work. My team respects me because I treat them well. My boss respects me because I help his business grow. Frank's face was getting red. You were nothing when you worked for me. Nothing. Maybe, but that says more about you than it does about me. Before Frank could respond, David appeared at Rosa's side. Rosa, how are things going? Everything's perfect, Rosa said. David, this is Frank. He was my supervisor at Romano's. David extended his hand. Nice to meet you, Frank. You must be. Proud of Rosa. She's become one of the best managers I've ever worked with. Frank reluctantly shook David's hand. Yeah, well, we all start somewhere. Actually, David said, I've been thinking about expanding the business. Rosa's been pushing me to open a second location, and I think she's right. She'd probably be running her own operation within a year. Rosa felt a surge of excitement. David had mentioned expansion before, but hearing him say it so confidently made it feel real. Her own operation? Frank looked stunned. Oh yes, Rosa has all the skills needed to run a successful food service business. Leadership, organization, customer service, financial management. She's a natural. Frank looked back and forth between David and Rosa, clearly struggling to process what he was hearing. Well, Frank said finally, I should get back to my table. As Frank walked away, David turned to Rosa. I hope you don't mind me saying that about the expansion. I've been meaning to talk to you about it. Are you serious? Dead serious. Rosa, you've helped me grow this business by 40% in 6 months. You've improved our systems, our customer service, and our reputation. I'd be crazy not to give you the chance to run your own location. Rosa felt tears starting to form. David, I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. We can talk details next week? As the afternoon wound down, Rosa supervised the cleanup with her usual attention to detail. Everything was packed efficiently, the site was left spotless, and the Romano's employees were full and happy as they loaded the last of the equipment into the truck. Jenny approached Rosa. Boss, that was one of our best events ever. Everything went perfectly. Thanks, Jenny. The team did amazing work today. Can I ask you something? That guy, Frank, he seemed to have some kind of problem with you. What was that about? Rosa looked back at the picnic site, then at her team loading the truck. He was my old boss. He fired me 6 months ago. He fired you. Why? Because he thought I wasn't good enough, Jenny laughed. Are you kidding? You're the best manager I've ever worked for. That guy must be blind. As they drove away from the picnic, Rosa felt a sense of closure she hadn't expected. She had proven to herself, to Frank, and to everyone else that she was capable of much more than anyone had imagined, but more importantly, she had learned something about herself. She wasn't the same scared woman who had cried in her car 6 months ago. She was Rosa Martinez, successful professional and leader. And this was just the beginning. Her phone buzzed with a text from Miguel. How did it go, mi amor? Rosa smiled as she typed back. It went perfectly. I can't wait to tell you about my day. Looking out the window at the city passing by, Rosa realized that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can turn out to be the best thing that ever happened. Getting fired from Romano's had been devastating at the time, but it had led her to discover who she really was and what she was capable of achieving. And that, she thought, was worth more than any apology Frank could ever give her.